Meeting to order at 2:07. Kaden, would you give a blessing, please?
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day, Lord. We glorify you and we give you all the glory and praise, Lord. I ask that you would watch over us, lead and guide and direct us, help us make good decisions. Lord, please just protect us, protect our families and the Cherokee people. We ask these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Rex Jordan.
Here.
E.O. Smith.
Here.
Keith Austin. Here. Harley Buzzard. Joe Bird. Julia Coates.
Here.
Sean Crittenden. Joe Deere.
Honey.
Mike Dobbins. Here. Kanan Duncan. Daryl Legg. Here. Wes Snowfire. Dora Kutzkowski. Here. Mike Shambaugh. Mary Bakershaw. Janice Taylor. Here. Victoria Vasquez. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from January the 11th, regular session. Got a motion and a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Reports, Management Resources, Mr. David Moore. David, you with us?
Yes, sir.
You're up.
Good afternoon. Glad you all could make it today. Before we start on this, I'd like to just say thank you to Facilities Management, Land Management, and Planning and Development. We've all been tasked with a lot of extra duties during this last year with COVID and the ice storms and other issues. But with a limited staff, they've always answered the bell. So I just wanted to say thank you to them, and we appreciate the patience with council and administration every now and then when we don't have the manpower. So just wanted to say that before we got started. Y'all have our report. If you got any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Okay. Is there any questions for David? Yes, Sean?
Hey, Dave, remember when y'all came to Stillwell and we looked at two different sites up there? I just seen you and thought of this just now. But one of them was a road from this elder's house. He was wanting to make a different one that connected something that was associated with the housing authority. You remember that one?
Yes, sir.
And he wouldn't care.
Yep, sure do.
Joker Fork Killer was his name. And will you touch base with Jerry, the housing authority? And I'd like to get back on that. Me and Kanan visited with him the other day and just kind of take a second look at that, because we thought it was owned by someone, but it turned out it wasn't. So now that the snow's off and stuff, I know you guys are busy, but we take another jab at that one.
And he was looking for a alternate way in, right?
Well, he really needs it. That other road's just terrible, but there's some kind of association there with the housing authority, that big super highway thing they have back there with that housing addition. All right. Thank you. Thank you for looking at that.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for David? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, David. David, in your report that was sent to us, it says that
Resource team cuts firewood, okay, and addresses any emergencies. Who gets that firewood and how is it distributed?
We'll cut it and we'll keep it at our shops. We also bring it here to the complex. We get with CCO group and sometimes human resources or human services, and they get it out.
And they get it out.
We just
Did we
just cut it.
Did we run out of firewood during the last 2 weeks?
We were very limited on what we have because of that, but it's been hard to even try to, and since it's an emergency, we've been trying to purchase some, and it's just hard to find any right now.
Okay, well, I know there was a lot of things being said about people being cold and no firewood available. Do you think that in the future we should have a backup supply? I mean, we own all this land with all these trees. I mean, should we not be taking them down and storing up for in the future maybe?
Well, our policy right now is we cut down trees that are already down is what we're doing. And we usually have a pretty good stock on hand. It's just with our limited employees this year, it's been hard to keep up. That's been our biggest problem this year.
Okay, I think we ought to hire some of our youth or something to help you guys if we ever see a winter storm coming like the one we just experienced. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak to the firewood and the resources. We always address our elders first, and this winter storm, while there was some planning that we did ahead of time, we had a run on wood. And we got to the point that all of our resources that we reached out to in town, several of them had already run out of wood because people in Texas and things like that. And because of the winter weather that we were having, a lot of our employees, as David alluded to, weren't able to leave their homes. So it kind of got us in a situation where we were lower staffed than what we would like to have in those instances. So in order to meet some of those needs, we elected to use our electric heaters. A lot of those requests were made through several different districts to have some help with heat, also to have help with propane. So while the complex was closed, there were 3 or 4 of us working the Zoho form, and we were utilizing all of the resources that we had to get propane in tanks, to get heaters ran out to individuals. And not only were heat and things like that a concern, it was being able to actually get to some of their homes. A lot of our elders and families live in really rural districts that weren't able to get cleared right away. So we did our best with the heaters and also trying to get propanes and tanks for a more long-term solution, if you would. So I agree, the wood is always a concern. We try to be stocked up as best we can, but this time we had a great need.
Harley?
Yes, David, I have a couple of questions. And I noticed that we got 10 buffalo donated from the Kickapoo tribe. Was that, where's the tribe located? In Kansas or Oklahoma, or which tribe was it?
I think it was here in Oklahoma, but it was 19 total. It was 10 cows and 9 bulls.
I see. And the other thing, I just want to follow up a little bit on Councilor Shaw about the wood and stuff, and you mentioned that you deliver wood or take it to the CCO groups in each district. Well, for District 10, we don't have a CCO organization up there. We had
No.
two organizations, but both of them they're not there anymore because the policy came out from the CCO group that if you're running for tribal council, then you could not belong to a CCO organization. So the one candidate had run that organization, so she pulled that out. The other group that was in the CCO organization, the policy came out that if you had a board member that belonged to your CCO organization, you could not participate in anything that Cherokee Nation does, like get their CCO grants, things like that. So I don't know that they're even an organization now because their board would not accept the resignation of that candidate. So we don't have any. So I guess my question is, David, are we storing wood someplace down around Kenwood at the ranch or someplace like that to where we could refer people?
Yes, we don't actually take it out to different CCO groups. We keep it here at Highway 51 at their office. We take some out there for them to get out, and we also keep them at both shops, north and south. And then we bring a little bit here to the complex so that whoever's delivering it we try to locate it all around. So whoever's delivering it can pick it up and take it to the people.
Okay.
We can't deliver it to a single, individual.
Sure, I understand.
We can, yeah.
Okay, that's good, because I'm glad that, at least if they need the wood and can get down there, they can get it then.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you,
yes.
thank you.
Yep.
Lee?
Thank you, sir. I wanted to clarify, and I think David did, but just to make sure for everyone watching and everyone in the room, what he means by CCO groups is that we make the wood accessible north and south and then here in town, so that some of our CCO folks who may have been working from home or not able to be in the office that day could actually work on delivering those ricks of wood to elders. So it's not necessarily to CCO groups, it's our CCO staff that help us deliver those ricks of wood. And it's kind of a grueling process, and we do deliver to individuals. It's just however we can make that work, and a lot of times that's through our CCO staff, not necessarily the groups. I also need to clarify with the wood, purchasing the wood also is a little bit of a struggle for us because a lot of the wood vendors around here are all cash business, and as you can imagine, with our funds the way that they are, we have to have a little bit of pre-thought and things like that, and there's some W-9s and things that are involved, so just something to keep in mind to deal with wood.
Harley?
Yes, just a follow-up question, and maybe Carolee can answer it. Through our LIHEAP program, do we not do that anymore like we used to do it in the past?
Yes, sir. We still have a LIHEAP, and it operates the same through Human Services. A lot of those folks will have propane or other sources like that that they need assistance with. Utility assistance, basically, is what it would be. They do have wood needs as well, and those are met as well through Human Services.
And I think the problem that I'm hearing about these people is, yes, they have this program through LIHEAP, and they can get wood, but it's left up to the person to contact that person that cuts wood. Is that the case, Terry, or are you familiar with that?
I'm not. I think it would probably be on a case-by-case basis. I'm not clear on the particular situation, but it could be that they've been given a stipend or something like that to coordinate, maybe. Okay, yeah, he's saying a voucher program. So Human Services offers a voucher to the individual, and then they can pay an individual in their area, so it's closer to them, to either have the wood delivered or pick it up there.
Okay. Well, I think it's probably a little confusing to some of our citizens out there because a lot of them don't know who to call.
Sure.
They were used to having, and I'll just give you an example. In Delaware County in Jay, they had this guy that had this big wood yard, and he took all the LIHEAP orders, so they knew exactly who to call. But now, if you call, you cannot find the woodcutter sometimes. You just can't find them. They've quit doing it, so it really makes it difficult to do. But
That was our experience
Yeah.
in the Tahlequah area as well. It's very hard to find wood during the winter storm.
So I don't know, maybe we need to think out of the box a little bit more and do what we did before, is have this one particular person cut that wood, but I don't know
Sure.
if you can even find that anymore. It's a problem.
I think it would be a good idea to visit around and get some wood resources for every district, and maybe we could make a
Yeah.
list. We'll visit about that.
It's difficult to find people to cut wood anymore, so.
Yes, sir.
That's a problem. But thank you guys for all you do. I know that I had some people out of propane, and they certainly got that taken care of, so you
Glad
guys
to
have
hear.
done a lot. I know that. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sean? Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Hey, David. Hey, I just want to thank you for delivering all that water. I mean, we went through a bunch, and you got it up there through all that rough stuff, so thank you very much. It's going back to the wood, and I'm sorry, but I was out of the room. I've talked to several people in my district who ended up cutting wood for me for elders through this storm. So we've delivered wood to elders, but it was kind of an emergency deal where they had to go out and cut it in the evening and deliver it to me. And they'd be willing to, like we said, set up a deal where, they'll cut for kenwood, they'll cut for oaks, and we can have a surplus and do it before wintertime and have a location for it. I found people who are willing to do that in my district, so I think it would be a great idea to stockpile some wood, because we had a lot of elders who were without water and heat altogether. They just ran out of wood. But there's people out there who will do it, and I've identified a few in my district who are willing.
That's great. I think if we can get those names and get them to Tara Lee, maybe we can, get a program put together like that.
Okay, well, I think it would be very beneficial.
And thank you for the help unloading the water.
Well, I didn't tell anybody you got stuck, so I won't tell anybody.
Yeah. Thanks.
Your question?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
go ahead. You know, this is back to the wood. You know, we have the two offices there south, there at Cherokee, Delonaghy, and then Bull Hollow. You know, at one time, we used to have those guys have wood for us. And then we would pay our tribal members that wanted to cut wood, make them a little bit extra spending money. And we always had reserve on both ends of the counties there. Are we not doing that anymore?
Yes, sir, we are cutting wood. It's just with the limited staff we've had this year due to COVID, we probably didn't get as much wood cut as we normally do. I've got two guys at Delonaghy, and you know, when we rotate, that means one person's there. So it's been tough, but they've had quite a bit of wood on hand, but not enough for this storm.
Right. Do we have information on how many people are still using firewood in these counties? Because I'm sure it'd be, most of the people would be the 5-county area. And I'm just guessing there. Is that correct?
I don't have numbers. There's probably a lot of people though that burn wood.
I thought we had some numbers one time given to us from Diane Kelly or somebody that gave us some numbers on how many people are actually using wood. Yes. I thought Diane had some information like that. It'd be good to know because it's probably the 5-county area. Yeah, if we knew how many Sequoia County, you know, how many people are still using wood stoves, then we could get a better handle on this and not overreact to this because, you know, right now it's 55 degrees outside and not too many people need wood today, but we may be different in Oklahoma next week. So
Yes, sir.
anyway, something to look at. Todd, do you have any idea how many people that might be using wood out there? I mean, we should have some information on the request through Human Services.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jennifer Kirby and the Human Services team should be able to give us a breakdown on that. I can't remember the percentages of the people that they assist with light heap and the breakdown between propane versus pellet stoves versus wood heat. And, you know, I can remember 15, 20 years ago, we were trying to push as many pellet stoves out because they were a little bit more efficient and easier to maintain. But I can get with Jennifer and verify what that breakdown is and how many, in particular on what light heap, and then we could extrapolate that to percentage of people. And I can tell you, as a guy that had burst pipes in his house and didn't have water for a while, I started burning wood to supplement my gas heat, and I burned through a rick in 5 days. So I think the consumption increased a lot as well during this time, and that's what led to the shortfall, is just people were burning a lot faster than they normally would.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Any other questions for David Moore? Yes.
Kind of on a lighter note, up at Bull Hall, did we have any new babies during this storm? Do you know of?
Not that I know of. I'll check with Dale though, but hadn't told me about any new ones during it.
I just want.
Heard a lot of bad stories about cattle though.
On the buffalo that come in, they were from Illinois. A tribe up there lost their lease and sent them down. There was supposed to be 19 head of cows, but when they unloaded them off the trailer, which didn't cost us anything, they paid for everything. It was just a gift. It was great. But when they unloaded them off the trailer, 9 of them were bulls. So we got plenty of bulls for a while. So.
Yeah.
But the main thing, it didn't cost us nothing, and it helped our herd. They look good. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Dobbins?
Hey, David, on the
Yes.
CARES Act projects, I guess I'm asking specifically about Muskogee. Can you tell me what all those projects in general, what their purpose is, what we're going to use those buildings for?
Social distancing as far as like relocating overcrowded staff, PPE storage, food distribution, spots, not centers, And that's the main purpose for these.
Okay. When you say be used for social distancing, what does that mean exactly?
Whenever we have like overcrowded office space and stuff, we need to spread people out a little more. So we're trying to give them a little more space so we can provide extra room for people by building some of these buildings.
So how close are we for all these to be functional now?
The majority of them are functional. It's just the timing with the storm and stuff kind of messed up a lot of it. They're in process of several groups getting ready to move. I know the site is Stillwell. We're actually, going to use it as I think a vaccine site, maybe. I'm not positive. I'll let Chief of Staff answer that one, but just we have them in strategic locations also that will help us with the food when we do have to get it out to our different areas.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you, Chair.
Yep.
Did you have something, Todd?
Yes, if I might. So in a couple of those, trying to address Councilor Dobbins' questions, most of those sites are going to be up and ready. We have a few that are still finishing up construction, in particular the meat processing facility. We still have some work on the PPE facility in Hobart itself. And then the food distribution center at Veneta. And the others are all pretty well done, ready to be turned over. As David pointed out, we're actually working on a plan to open up the social distancing. We're calling it the one-stop shop in Stillwell. That will be ready to go. The PPE facility in Stillwell is getting very close. We've got the machines all pretty well put together. We're waiting on some raw material to begin running tests before we do a terminal clean on that facility. Muskogee, we're looking at plans to relocate staff, but Stillwell was our first priority for relocating staff. And then several of the sites have had materials stored in them related to food and PPE for the community so that we can distribute it out there a little bit quicker. So we're getting really close on all of them. As David said, we've postponed several things over the last couple of weeks and rescheduled to move stuff around, and then the weather this week really put a damper in our process. But getting very close on all of them. So I'm actually pretty excited to begin to start to show the council what the spaces look like and how they'll be used, and getting ready to turn that over to the individuals to start occupying the spaces. So I'd say within the next 30 days, you'll start to see a lot of movement into those areas.
Sean?
Yeah. Todd, will you tell us, I get a lot of people asking about the meat processing. Just how many it's going to employ at first and what we're going to be processing. Is it open to citizens to take theirs? Give us kind of how we're walking into this thing.
That is a great question. It's a lot. So that facility is about 12,000 square feet, and we added on about another 3,000 square feet for freezer storage so that our costs would be lower because of the thermofreeze permafrost that would be underneath the concrete, so you have to insulate that a little differently than the rest of the facility. So combined total, we're going to have about 15,000 square feet. And in that facility, we chose to go a custom processing plant, meaning that Sean brings his cow to us, we process that cow, and we give you back the meat. We can't take a portion of that and then sell it. And then Keith brings in a hog, and we render that hog, and we provide that hog back to him. So we are set up to process cattle, hogs, pigs, and deer. And then we're also set up to process bison. And so that made us redesign the whole structural steel system in that facility to be able to process a full-grown buffalo inside that facility. And that has to be 20 feet tall to be able to render that. So we've got enough allocation that we can probably initially staff about 10 people inside that facility. And so we're approaching this from a crawl, then walk, then run. So crawl is we'll do custom processing. It will be open to citizens. We're looking at the pricing structure. There will be a discount to citizens. It will be open to the public. So somebody that may be not affiliated with Cherokee Nation, they could bring it in, but they will pay at a higher rate than a Cherokee citizen will. Did I mention we're going to process deer? So for seasonal, we'll actually process deer as well. And so people can bring that stuff in, and we should have enough storage to be able to maintain that. So initially, this is going to feel a little small for the size of the building. So that would be the crawl. Once we feel like we can run that, operate it successfully, we've got a few months under our belt, then we can start the walk. And so the walk, we have two options to look at. One could be state inspected, meaning that all the materials stay inside the state of Oklahoma. We can resell it, sell it to any individuals, the public, whoever we would like, but it has to stay inside the confines of the state of Oklahoma. And then the third option is USDA, and USDA requires an on-site inspector. They come in, they have a full-blown office inside the facility, and we could actually sell and process that meat outside the state of Oklahoma. And so we could go across multiple jurisdictions. That facility is designed for us to go to USDA. Will we initially use it? No. But we want to make sure that we can process and take the steps and maintain good safety and good protocols to make sure that we do this correctly. So that's a long answer to a short question, but there's a lot of stages in there. I'm thinking probably April timeframe is when we'll be ready to start looking at operating that facility.
Well, a lot of my folks are excited about it. Just you hear the talk around my area anyway, it's hard to find a place, to get a hog or something butchered, and they're excited about that. And we've always talked about the buffalo. What are we going to do? And sounds like the possibilities are a bunch. And,
yeah, I've worked with David and Dale, who help manage the herd, and we're trying to grow the herd and manage it properly so that we can actually begin to process meat on a quarterly basis and augment and supplement either elder nutrition programs or food distribution programs. So that's kind of the intent and the purpose of growing the herd. And now we've got a design, we've got an intent, and we know how big we need to maintain that herd to keep that cycle rolling.
Well, that's exciting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for David? Thanks, David. Done a good job. Keep
Thank
it
y'all.
up.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a great day.
You too. Ginger Reeves. You there with us, Ginger?
I'm with you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're up.
Good afternoon. I hope all is well. You have my report, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Okay. Any questions for Ginger?
Ginger, what's the time frame on this purchase there in Sequoia County by Aikens there for paperwork for that to be put in trust?
We're looking at that. I think we're still doing inspections of it and trying to figure out, Chief of Staff might have a better idea on how that's progressing, but we could do it, I'd say, within the next year.
Then in the meantime, we just say it's a reservation, folks, so that's it, right?
That'd certainly be up to Secretary Harsha.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ginger. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Ginger, you've done a good job. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Environmental programs. Chad, you taking that one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're up.
I believe you have a copy of Mr. Elkins' report. If there's any questions on any specific item, I can take that.
Must be off.
Any questions on environmental? I guess we can move right on.
All right, and you can hear me well, right?
Yeah, we kind of hear you. Can you talk a little louder?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So going over a couple of the projects that we have going in my office, I've mentioned in the past meetings a construction project we have for our electric bus program. We've completed construction there north of the casino for our second charging station. We hoped last week to have it commissioned, but due to the storm, we're pushing that out a couple of weeks. So I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to have the system fully commissioned and implementing those buses into our existing transit system. So that's kind of the last leg of this first initial project that we have. And happy to see it get to the completion phase. In regard to our hunting and fishing licenses, we've completed our mail out for this year. We mailed out just a little over 137,000 licenses, which is quite a task, and certainly moving to increase licenses that we issue each year. We're still working with the state and having conversations about what the next steps look like for a potential hunting and fishing compact, recognizing that McGirt has changed that conversation quite a bit. But we're still issuing licenses. I know I've had some folks reach out about the licenses or their constituents not having received one. At this point in time, I think we got the last batch out right before the storm came. So any gaps in those mailouts should have been covered. And if individuals still haven't received one, I mean, there's a lot of data to move through, and I feel we did a pretty good job of getting the accuracy of the data in as best we could. There were a couple instances of duplicates, but I feel pretty good that most of them have went out. And if anyone needs one, you can reach out to us anytime. We can get a duplicate mailed, and you can also access electronic copy of your license through the Oklahoma Outdoors app, which is pretty useful. I mentioned at Rules Committee a couple of weeks ago a pretty broad overview of our next steps with the Hunting Preserves Act, which I believe is up for consideration at full council by this body this afternoon. We've had a couple of meetings of our programming team, and I think which consists of folk represented from Real Estate Services, Marshal Service, my group, administration, and charting out kind of what the framework's going to look like for the regulatory component that's going to come out this spring. And I think we're getting a good idea of where we're headed and a handle on identifying properties. We've compiled a list of most of the major properties that we have throughout the state of Oklahoma, and we're working toward that effort and identifying the best use for those properties and getting the regulations ready to go for this spring. It's going to be a pretty large project, but I think we're making a lot of good progress. One other update I'd like to provide is our seed bank. You may have seen public release that the seed bank distribution program is open again this year. It's still open and available online to request seeds, but we do have a dwindling inventory at this point. We generally have a lot of interest. Last year we sent out about 5,100 packages, and as of now, we've distributed about 1,500. So the request portal is still open online, although some options aren't available at this point. But I'll keep you updated as that project comes to a close, which should be in the next 60 days. That's all I have in terms of updates for the programs that I generally share with the group. So if you have any questions, I can take them.
Any questions? Yes. Mary?
Yes. Chad, I have a question. Have you had any progress on asking about the temporary fishing permits for at-large citizens?
It is still certainly part of the conversation that we're having. We pushed pretty hard last year, but I think we're all aware of kind of this attending circumstances with some of the relationships. But it's part of the conversation that we're having. Recognizing that we're still dialing in kind of what McGirt means as we await for the final decision to drop from the Court of Criminal Appeals. But it is still part of the overall long-term idea of a compact, and the state is certainly aware of that request, and it's part of that ongoing conversation.
Okay, and then my last question is, are we using generators for the charging stations? I think the weather
No.
this last week might indicate we might ought to consider that.
We certainly, in light of the weather, have considered what kind of backup measures we could put in place. As far as the chargers, they're tied into the regional utility here at the city of Tahlequah, and here at the complex, the chargers we have are solar powered, so they still work whenever you have a sufficient sunlight. And then they're also supplemented through backup electricity from the local grid. So that is something that we're considering. But as far as the chargers that we're completing now, those aren't necessarily for public use. That's to fund or to support the transit infrastructure that we're building, with the individual charging locations at this point generally designed to be solar powered.
Thank you.
Carly?
Chad, I have a couple of questions. One, do we have a number on Cherokee citizens that are 65 and older? And the reason I ask that, because if you're 65 and older, you get hunting and fishing license free of charge. Do we have numbers on how many we have like that?
We do, and I don't have them in front of me, but I can send you an email as to what those numbers look like. I think one thing that we have to keep in mind too is that even if you are eligible for a free license due to being 65 and older, you still have to purchase the tag. And with the license that we mailed out, we're able to target those individuals such that they can get a universal deer tag and a spring turkey tag.
I hadn't thought of that, but I wonder if we knew the numbers of those people that are 65 and older. If we're still paying the $2, I'd like to know how much that is. And then, you probably never could find out how many buy tags for a deer, but, that may be completely a different thing. So, just wondering, the other question I had is, do we know, and it may be hard to get, do we know how many Cherokees have already bought lifetime hunting and fishing license? Those are numbers that are important, because we're like, you give 137,000 licenses out. If you multiply that by 2, that's $274,000. Now, we have people that live in houses that need more water, need sewer, and need a roof on their house and stuff like that. So I don't see us being too conservative about that, other than just throwing the money out there. So that's the reason I'm asking about some of the numbers on 65 and year older citizens, plus the people that has lifetime hunting and fishing license. So I think there's some work that we need to do to look at what we're paying. If we're just paying $2 a license, and you got 100 of them or 500 that's 65 and over, that's, that adds up. So those monies can be used in different areas for our Cherokee people. Anyway, if you can get those numbers, I think it would probably help us look at negotiations even. Thanks, Dad.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Councilman. And we do, after we print the licenses, after we put all the front end work to get that project off the ground, we do kind of look at the data that we have available. I will say that, we don't issue licenses to individuals, Cherokees that may have a lifetime license, because they already obviously have all tags and licenses available. But let me see, as we get our data from, post mail out, if I can dial in some of that information for you.
Janice?
Chad, you had reached out to one of my constituents regarding he hadn't gotten his license yet, but in that conversation you mentioned this Oklahoma Outdoors app, which I want to know where that is accessed. He was under the impression that once you had that, you had a copy of your license, you didn't have to carry that paper license anymore, which is great. And I just want to revisit that and be sure that all of that is correct and where people actually access that.
Sure. And so, one of the reasons why we actually mail out paper licenses is to make sure that we're reaching every individual that otherwise wouldn't. There's a lot of folks who don't use, especially our elderly folks who don't use, Apple App Store and things like that. So we try to make sure that we're making this available to everyone. But regardless of whether or not you received a paper copy of your license, if we issued you a license last year, you should have had one issued this year, and including those individuals, about 6,000 that come up here and request them in person. So those licenses are actually generated through our agreement and partnership with the state, and then the paper mail out we do is more of a courtesy to make sure we're reaching everyone. But there is an app called Outdoor Oklahoma that is available through just about any app store, whether it be Android or Apple, and it's free, and it's sponsored by Oklahoma Department of Wildlife. And in that app, if you download it, you can enter in your information, and it'll generate and populate a copy of your license that you can have electronically, that you can then use that in place of a paper copy when you're fishing, hunting, or enjoying the outdoors. And it's if we've issued you a license and you don't have a paper copy, you can rely on that app. If you enter in your information, you can actually see the privileges and stuff that you have.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Charlotte?
I didn't know if you had to have the go in front of that or just type in outdoor Oklahoma. Mine says
Yeah,
go. But anyway.
Yeah, it's the Go Outdoors.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Good, done a good job. Keep it up. We'll see you next
Thank
time.
you. Yes, sir.
Old business none pending, new business none pending. Any announcements? Next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, March 15th at 2 o'clock. I just need one motion. We are adjourned.